I never imagined that one woman could turn a white billionaire family's world upside down. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick, heavy with a silence that choked me. It was as if the universe held its breath, waiting for the storm. I stood there, heart pounding, feeling like a stranger in my own life. It was Jessica, my best friend. She had always been a firecracker, igniting sparks wherever she went. I admired her boldness, her passion for life, but I never expected the chaos she would unleash. It started with a whispered rumor. The kind that slithers into your ears, whispering secrets and lies that tear apart fabric and trust. She's dating him, someone said, their voice dripping with disbelief. How can she? The him? Ethan Hayes, the heir to a white billion-dollar empire. He was a constellation of privilege, a golden boy surrounded by diamond-encrusted walls and luxurious cars. The Hayes family was everything we weren't, a fortress of scandal and secrets, gleaming castles hiding whispers of greed. I thought his world was impenetrable. I mean, how could a girl like Jessica Wilde, unfiltered, with her ink-stained hands and messy bun, waltz into his life and shake it like an earthquake? Yet there she was. And with every passing moment, mistrust and betrayal seeped into our friendship like poison. I noticed her laughing eyes, the glint in them, sparkling like shattered glass. She seemed transformed, glowing with a dangerous allure. My stomach twisted. I felt sick, like my heart was being squeezed by icy fingers. The day I confronted her loomed like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. I found her by the massive mansion's pool, sun-drenched and radiant, but my voice trembled like a leaf about to fall. Jess, what are you doing? This isn't you. But she just smiled, a knowing smile that sliced through me. You don't understand, Anna. This is freedom. Don't you want that? But all I could think of was the family sitting inside, the watchful eyes of Ethan's mother, cold and unforgiving. Would they accept her, or were they just waiting to cast her into the shadows? My mind raced. The stories of power and downfall, humiliation and sacrifice unfolded in my thoughts. I felt the dread curling in my chest. What if they discovered her past? The secrets she had told me under that old willow tree? Would they let her go, or look upon her with disdain? With my heart in my throat, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was all a dangerous game. The tension twisted into a blur of emotions. Fear, anger, protection. How could I let her fall into this well of despair? Then came the moment the phone rang. I grabbed it while Jess was lost in her own world. It was Ethan's voice, smooth and confident, but there was a chilling undertone. You need to talk to Jessica. Now. The call ended, leaving a void that echoed around us. My hands trembled as I turned to Jessica, but the light in her eyes flickered uncertainly. What was unfolding here? A chapter of wild dreams or a descent into chaos? How could one woman, a friend I loved, become the wild card that could unravel not just her life, but the lives of those around her? The questions clawed at me, gnawing at my insides like a ravenous beast. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed hung heavy with an unspoken tension. Jessica often drifted into the Hayes family's orbit, her laughter ringing out like a bell in a quiet forest. I could see the allure of that world tugging at her, wrapping around her like an embrace. But beneath the laughter beat a heart filled with uncertainty, and that made my nights restless. I couldn't shake off the worry gnawing at me. It burrowed deeper with every smile she shared with Ethan, every conversation that seemed to grow longer and more entangled. One evening, I found myself standing outside the lavish Hayes mansion, feeling utterly out of place. The grandeur of it all struck me as both beautiful and grotesque, and my heart raced with conflicting emotions. I had come to confront Jessica, but could only muster the shaky courage to stake out her new life. Inside, the air hummed with an intoxicating vibrancy, the flicker of candles, the low hum of music. I pressed against the hedges, straining to catch a glimpse of her through the enormity of the glass doors. As I waited, a nervous knot twisted in my stomach. What if this was the last chance to reach her before it was too late? The thought sent chills down my spine. Suddenly, the doors swung open. Ethan appeared, framed by the golden glow of the interior, his presence a magnetic force. "Jessica!" he called out, and I watched her bound towards him, her hair cascading like sunlight. She looked radiant, but the moment felt surreal, as if I was watching a film unfolding rather than witnessing my friend's life. Yet, my heart dropped as I noticed the way her laughter shook not from joy, but a tremor of uncertainty that neither of them could fully hide. A fleeting moment of doubt crossed her face before she quickly masked it with a smile so bright it hurt. I fought against the instinct to rush in, to shake her out of whatever consuming whirlwind she was trying to navigate. I knew their love, fueled by impulsive dreams, was precarious. The countless stories I had heard around that old willow about the consequences of rushing headlong into the unknown echoed in my mind. Would she cave under the weight of expectations? Would she disappear into the shadows of that gilded cage? When I finally gathered the courage to step through those daunting doors, the atmosphere shifted. Jessica's eyes widened for a second, her joy cracking like fragile glass. "Anna!" she exclaimed, reading the worry on my face. I stepped into the living room, where laughter mingled with the scent of expensive perfume and rich hors d'oeuvres. "We need to talk," I said, urgency clawing at my throat. Ethan glanced between us, a discerning smile on his lips, but I saw it his eyes flickered, questioning, wary. "I think we should let them have a moment," he said lightly, his voice too smooth, a practiced comfort that sent alarms ringing in my head. As he stepped away, I lowered my voice. "Jess, this isn't just fun and games. You're playing with fire. Don't you see the risks?" But she brushed my concerns aside, her voice a mixture of defiance and excitement. "You don't understand, Anna. This is more than just him. This is me finally breaking out, grabbing hold of everything I've wanted." My heart sank. "But what if they find out about your past? About everything you've worked so hard to escape?" The words fell like stones between us. While I fought to keep her grounded, the distance between us stretched, filled with unspoken truths and blurred lines. A slight flicker of doubt crossed her face, and for a breath, I thought I saw the walls crumbling. Just then, the light dimmed as Ethan returned, eyes softening at the sight of Jessica, distracting her with sweet words I was too far away to hear. I stepped back, feeling the weight of our friendship beginning to unravel. It was all happening too quickly. I wasn't just an observer, but a participant, and the fear of losing her gnawed at my insides. They locked eyes, and in that moment, it was clear she was lost to me, lost to the dream she had embraced. But before I could react, a sudden tap of fingers against my arm pulled me back to reality. I turned to find Janet, Ethan's mother, standing next to me, her presence imposing yet oddly tender. "Are you all right?" she asked softly, her gaze penetrating yet not cold. Something in her tone invited the truth. Maybe it was the weariness I could see etched on her face. "I'm just worried about Jessica," I admitted, surprising myself by how freely the words flowed. "I see," she nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes, the people we care about choose paths that shock us. But life has a way of revealing strength when we least expect it." Her empathy flickered like a candlelight, urging me to hope, to see the faintest glimmer of understanding. yet uncertainty prickled at the corners of my mind. Just then, a loud crash echoed from the crowded living room, and laughter turned into excited murmurs. I glanced over, where Jessica stood, jarred from her conversation with Ethan as a server stumbled. A cascade of champagne glasses shattered around them. Gasps swept through the crowd. But in that split second, as I locked eyes with Jessica, I saw it, a flicker of something darker beneath her bright facade, a glimpse of fear that matched mine. Was she realizing, too, that the world she had stepped into was more fragile than it appeared? The echoes of laughter morphed into an uncanny harmony of hope and despair. In that brief moment, it wasn't just a wedding of luxury and chaos, it was the beginning of something far more complicated. And as the crowd surged around us, I couldn't shake the feeling of impending disaster looming on the horizon, waiting to crash down with the force of 1,000 storms. The sudden thought settled like a weight on my chest. Should I rescue her from this whirlwind before it swept her away? But what if this was the very essence of her freedom, her choice, her sacrifice? Suddenly my phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me away from my thoughts. I looked down and gasped. It was an anonymous message. "You should really keep an eye on Jessica, she's in deeper than you think." Before I had time to digest it, something inside me sparked a new urgency that demanded action. Would I ignore the warning or act against the storm brewing? I had to decide, and soon. The world would change again, revealing truths I wasn't ready to face. The minute the text message disintegrated from my screen, I felt the weight of uncertainty shift into something denser, more menacing. I was standing at a crossroads, and I had no idea which path to take. My gaze snapped back to Jessica, who was now moving forward through the crowd, brushing off the chaos around her, as if the shattering glass had been nothing more than a fleeting distraction. Ethan lingered in the background, his smile unyielding, but I could sense the pressure building in the air between them, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. I needed clarity. I needed to understand how deep she had plunged into this new life, and why it felt so dangerous. The echoes of fragile laughter mingled with shimmery chatter, but to me, it sounded as if the party was a mirage. As I moved through the guests, their merriment felt distant, the polished lives they led starkly contrasting the tumult brewing within my heart. "Anna!" Jessica called, her voice insistent above the noise, pulling me back into reality. "Did you see what just happened? It was hilarious." She laughed, but her eyes flickered, a storm brewing beneath. "Yeah, hilarious," I replied, my voice strained, as I fought against the urge to scream that it wasn't funny at all. Instead, I forced a smile, arms crossed, as if shielding myself from her buoyancy. "Can we talk? Alone?" As she hesitated, exposing a split second of vulnerability, I felt a strange sense of urgency in my chest. It was now or never. Ethan watched us closely from the corner of my eye, eyebrows weaving together in a protective frown. I had no doubt he sensed the impending storm between us. "Let us go outside," she finally relented, her enthusiasm dimmed under the weight of my concern. We stepped out into the plush garden, a stark contrast to the frenzy inside. The sky draped itself in indigo, studded with stars, a backdrop that felt deceptively serene. "Jessica, I got a text just now," I started, my heart pounding. She paled at the words, her composure wavering, but I pressed on. "It said you're in deeper than I think." "What does that even mean?" For a heartbeat, silence enveloped us as Jessica's eyes searched mine, wild and afraid. She started, then stopped short, uncertainty cloaking her like a thick fog. "It's nothing, Anna. You're overthinking." "Am I?" I shot back, anger flaring up like a fever. "You don't see everything. You're wrapped up in this illusion, Jess. When did you stop considering how it affects you? How it affects us? You don't understand, Anna," she explained, voice shaking as storm inside her spilling out, taking form against the serene night. "Ethan gets me. He gets everything I have fought against. This is my life now, the life I've dreamed about. I can't just walk away because of your fears. Then what about your past? I pleaded, desperation seeping into my words. Are you really ready for it to be laid bare? To have it used against you? Her eyes darkened, shadows darting across her face as she folded her arms defensively. You make it sound like I'm a victim. I'm not. There's power in what I've chosen. I can't let fear dictate my life, not again. Yet, as she said it, tears threatened to spill, knocking against her veneer of strength. The image of her past loomed, a ghost that never really let go. I took a tentative step closer, heart aching for her fragile facade. Jess, you don't have to fight alone. You don't have to prove anything to me or anyone. The vulnerability didn't falter. It shifted, and suddenly I felt the weight of her despair like an anchor. What if I'm not strong enough? She whispered, barely audible. What if this all collapses, and I'm left with absolutely nothing? A small voice threaded through the night, our shared fears hanging in the air like unspoken promises. Just then, from the corner of my vision, I noticed movement, a shadow darting through the garden. I turned to find a figure approaching us, cloaked in darkness. My heart raced. An inexplicable dread settled over me like a heavy mist. What are you doing out here? It was Janet, her presence suddenly looming. She looked drawn, solemn. I thought I could find you. I'm worried about things you don't see. In that moment, a shiver crept up my spine. 1 minute there had been laughter and carefree dreams, but underneath it all, an unseen chasm stretched wide, threatening to swallow us whole. What do you mean, things we don't see? Jessica asked, a sharp edge to her voice, but it faltered, betraying her uncertainty. There are currents beneath the surface, Jess, more than just family expectations or your dreams. Sometimes, the world you step into is more dangerous than you imagine. Janet's eyes flickered with worry mirrored within us. The revelation hung heavily, crashing into us like the earlier chaos, turbulent, wild, and unrelenting. Jessica and I exchanged glances, the gravity of the moment settling like ash in our chests. Could this be a warning? What was really at stake? The air shifted again. The party behind us faded into a buzz, and all that existed was a whisper of danger. Hope struggled to survive, and yet the storm was gathering strength on the horizon. I have to go back, Jessica said suddenly, and fear sliced through my heart as the light within her wavered once more. I need to find Ethan. And as she turned to step back into the fray, that ominous text echoed in my mind. How much deeper had she really plunged? I reached for her arm, voice trembling as I called out, "Wait, Jessica." But she was already lost to the night, and the ground beneath me felt unsteady. I turned to Janet, who wore a knowing expression that curled my stomach with dread. "What did you mean by danger?" I demanded, breathless. "Everything you think you know, it's only the beginning," she replied, eyes flickering with a mix of sorrow and resolve. She stepped closer, lowering her voice to a hushed whisper. "You have to uncover the truth before it's too late." Before I could process her words, an overwhelming sensation clawed at my heart, igniting flickers of dread and resolve. I was piecing together the puzzle of Jessica's new life, but nothing could prepare me for the truth behind those fragmented echoes, or the discoveries that lay ahead. A new understanding settled within me, a burning urgency to figure out what lurked hidden in the shadows. And just like that, I was propelled into a whirlwind of emotion and uncertainty, my heart pounding as I stepped forward into the gathering darkness. I had begun to unravel the fabric of their world, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible was about to be revealed, something that could change everything forever. The party's laughter slowly faded into a muted hum as I turned back toward the house, my heart racing like a wild horse in a storm. The wind shifted, rustling the leaves above, mirroring the chaos that churned within me. Each step felt heavier, the shadow of Jessica's actions looming larger with every breath. "Anna, wait!" Janet called, her voice cutting through my thoughts. I turned to face her, a feeling of trepidation coiling around me. You shouldn't he rushed back in there without knowing more. This is big. Despite her concern, the flicker of determination in her eyes struck me as comforting. What do you know, Janet? Please just tell me. She stepped closer, urgency painting her features. There has been rumors swirling in circles you are not aware of. It's about the people in Jessica's life, including Ethan. They're not who they seem. What do you mean? I pressed, desperation spilling into my tone. Is Ethan dangerous? Janet hesitated, the weight of her knowledge pressing down on her. Ethan is ambitious, in ways that can lead to dark places. Jessica doesn't know how deep it really goes. I swallowed hard, the implication sinking in like a stone in water. What are you saying? There's a conflict brewing beneath the surface, one in which Ethan's family has no qualms about using people to get what they want. And right now, Jessica is being pulled into a game she isn't equipped to play. A chill raced down my spine. The laughter from the party, once an echo of joy, now sounded ominous, each chuckle variable against the backdrop of mounting dread. If Ethan was tangled in something sinister, what hope did Jessica have? Is that why you were looking for me? Is that why you're here? I asked, my voice catching in my throat. Partly, she admitted, glancing back toward the house, where silhouettes danced against the glow of the lights. But I also need your help, Anna. You're the one person Jessica trusts. You can get through to her. Why can't you? I asked, anger leaking into my words. I've tried, she replied, frustration etching lines on her face. But she sees me as someone just trying to hold her back. You, on the other hand, you spark something in her. Maybe you can get her to listen. Panic surged, but within it, a flicker of determination ignited. Then what are we waiting for? We need to make her see the truth? But how? We watch and listen. We gather information. We find evidence of Ethan's ties, and expose them before she gets in too deep. It was a rhythm of resolve that began to echo between us, quiet yet insistent. Okay. Let us do it. As we moved toward the house, the atmosphere shifted again. The laughter was louder now, more exuberant, yet it felt hollow. My heart raced, a cacophony of hope and fear intertwining. What hidden truths lay behind those warm faces? What sacrifices had Jessica made for this glamour that now seemed so perilous? Inside, I scanned the crowd, searching for Jessica amidst the throng of joy. My beautiful friend was a light, but where was that warmth leading her now? Ethan's figure caught my eye, an unyielding presence as he held court, enthralled by admiration that radiated from those around him. Just be careful, Janet whispered as we navigated through the guests. Watch him, but don't let him notice you're watching. And if you see signs, anything that suggests danger, don't hesitate to pull her away. I nodded, though trepidation settled in my chest, heavy as stone. We moved closer, the music wrapping around us like a fraying thread. Then I spotted Jessica, her laughter genuine yet bittersweet, caught in a moment of adoration with Ethan. I felt a pang in my heart, a realization that struck like lightning. She was still my friend, vibrant and full of dreams, but now those dreams came with shadows. I needed to break through, but I couldn't let her see how scared I truly was. Hey, Jess, I called, intention wrapping tightly around my words as I stepped forward. She turned, surprise flickering in her hazel eyes, a smile chasing away the night's worries for just a heartbeat. But as I approached, I noticed Ethan's expression shift, the calm of a predator when his territory is encroached. What is up? Jessica said, her cheerful tone a stark contrast to the turmoil within me. I wanted to talk to you, I ventured, trying to catch her gaze amid the swirl of lights and laughter. Can we step outside again? Just for a minute? Something in her demeanor shifted, a hint of confusion mixed with curiosity. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just a moment," I replied, feeling the weight of Ethan's stare bore down on me, fierce and calculating. As I walked toward the door with Jessica, I felt Janet linger behind, the reassuring presence of her silent support filling the void. Outside, the cool air washed over me like a cleansing baptism, a momentary reprieve from the tension inside. "Is something wrong?" Jessica asked, concern now knitting her brows together. "No. But I have seen and heard things, Jess. I need you to listen to me." I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I prepared to unveil the layers of truth that hid beneath the surface, but as her expression shifted, uncertainty replacing trust, a voice reverberated from behind me. "Anna!" Ethan's voice pierced the night, cutting through my thoughts like a jagged shard of ice. I turned to see him standing at the threshold, framed by light and shadow, a stark juxtaposition that mirrored our diverging paths. "We need to talk," he declared, his tone demanding, eyes narrowing in on me with an intensity that sent a chill racing through my veins. The cliffhanger loomed before me, a precipice that threatened to pull us both into the depth of confusion and danger. What would he reveal next? Would it be the truth I so desperately sought, or an elaborate web of deceit that could turn my entire world upside down? With the stakes higher than ever, I felt the grip of fate tightening around us, the tightening noose of impending revelations ready to ensnare us all. The vibrant music that once filled me with a sense of belonging now resonated like ominous drumbeats in my ears as I faced Ethan. His presence felt suffocating, overwhelming, and for a moment, the air around us turned electric with unspoken truths begging to be unearthed. "Anna, was it?" he said, smirking in a way that could only be described as predatory. "I didn't expect you to be the one chasing after Jessica tonight. I thought you'd be more reserved." Every instinct screamed at me to retreat, to pull Jessica back and away from him. But her eyes flickered with confusion and disbelief as she glanced between us, caught in the crossfire of a conversation she hadn't intended to have. "I'm just checking in on her, Ethan. She deserves to have a genuine friend watching out for her," I asserted, the tremor in my voice cutting through my facade of bravery. "So noble," he retorted, stepping closer, the shadows throwing his features into sharper relief. "But let me remind you, Anna, Jessica is a grown woman. She can handle her own affairs. You'd do well to stay out of them." His words clawed at my resolve, but amid the tightening fear, a spark flickered. I couldn't let him manipulate this moment or intimidate me into silence. What Jessica needs is someone who truly cares about her, not someone who views her as a pawn in a greater scheme. Ethan's posture shifted, amusement dancing in the corner of his lips. "A pawn, you say? I assent that what we all are in someone's game. Jessica's already made her choice, she has ambitions of her own, and I happen to share the same vision." I felt my heart sink. He spoke with certainty, weaving a spell, and it horrified me to think of Jessica caught in such a precarious situation. Surely, she couldn't have given herself fully to him without seeing what lay beneath that charming exterior. I glanced at her, searching for the spark of recognition I knew remained, the bonds of trust we had built through years of friendship. "Jess, you see what he is doing, right?" I pleaded, gesturing toward Ethan with the fire of desperation. "You've heard the rumors, you have to be careful." Ethan's mockery dimmed, and I could sense the shift in his energy. "You should tread lightly, Anna. The more you dig, the deeper you'll bury yourself. And with how close you are to Jessica, it could lead to dire consequences." A shiver coursed through me. What could he possibly mean? Was the threat just a game designed to scare me off, or was there a genuine storm brewing in the shadows? I fought back against the fear gripping my heart. "You don't intimidate me, Ethan. I won't let you hurt her." Behind me, I felt Janet's breath hitch, a silent witness to the escalating tension. Jessica, however, seemed torn, her brow furrowed as she absorbed the confrontation. What are you talking about, Anna? You're acting as if I'm in danger, Jess, please. I'm trying to protect you, I urged, my voice softening yet fervent. From what? Ethan chimed in, his tone dripping with sarcasm. From living her life and making choices for herself? You want to paint her as some helpless victim who can't handle her own affairs. But in that moment, I saw something shift within Jessica. Her expression, initially one of surprise and confusion, morphed into something more resolute, a flicker of doubt about Ethan's intentions igniting in her eyes. Ethan, wait. Is there something you're not telling me? He brushed off her inquiry with a laugh, a cold, sharp sound that bounced off the walls of the party behind us. All I can offer you, Jess, is a world filled with opportunities. You'll find all of this small talk exhausting in due time. Jessica's gaze narrowed, caught between two worlds, the life she sought with Ethan and the protective love of a friend who could see the dangers beneath the surface. I'm not afraid of making my own choices. I'm not helpless. I know you're not, I countered, my voice firm. But your choices affect everything. Don't let this charm blind you. The air grew tense, and it felt as if time suspended around us, the world inside the house fading. I dared to hope Jessica might break free from the bubble Ethan had constructed around her. Maybe we should take a break from this, Jessica started, her voice wavering slightly. But it was then that Ethan's mask slipped entirely. You really think you can just walk away from this? Ethan shot back. You have no idea what you're playing with. It's not just about you, Jessica. There are forces at play that you cannot control. Those words hung in the air like a weight, suffocating and menacing. I realized the entanglement was deeper than I had anticipated. The realization that Jessica was caught not merely in a relationship, but in a web of challenging dynamics and conflicting allegiances shook me to my core. Then help me understand, Jessica challenged, her voice now steady. What should I be afraid of, Ethan? What do you really want from me? The moment crackled with intensity, and a glimmer of hope ignited within me. Perhaps this wasn't just my battle anymore. Maybe Jessica was ready to reclaim her narrative. But in that very breath of clarity, I caught a glimpse of Ethan's face, one of a man cornered but far from defeated. You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, when you make your choices, be prepared for who might come after you. You're not alone in this game, Jessica. Then, as if the universe conspired against us, a deafening crash echoed from inside the house, snapping our attention away. The sound surged into chaos. Glasses shattered, screams erupted, and the vibrant laughter was obliterated by panic. Stay here, I urged Jessica, but just as I turned to assess the turmoil, I felt Ethan's hand clench my arm, his expression now serious, dark. You have no idea what you're getting into, he whispered harshly, and in that tense moment, the ground beneath us quaked. A new reality imposed on us, making it clear that there were layers I had yet to uncover, forces colliding in a fray that eclipsed our fears and friendships. With hearts racing and uncertainty hovering, I knew this was only the beginning. What devastating truths awaited us in the disarray? Would Jessica's resolve hold firm, or would Ethan's world command her fate? As the turmoil roared into being, I recognized one painful truth. Our lives had been thrust into a precarious game, and the stakes were higher than ever imagined. The chaos within the house spiraled into a whirlwind of chaos, a palpable tension weaving its way through the frantic voices and hurried footsteps. My heart raced, pounding in rhythm with the thumping bass of the music that had morphed from celebratory to chaotic in mere moments. I pulled away from Ethan's grip, a wave of defiance igniting within me. What is happening? I glanced back toward the entrance, where shadows danced on the walls, the flickering lights casting erratic patterns that mirrored the unease settling in my gut. The party had disintegrated into a cacophony of confusion, and while adrenaline surged through my veins, there lay an undercurrent of dread. We need to get out of here, I said, forcing my voice to steady, though uncertainty lingered at the back of my mind. Ethan seemed unfazed, his eyes narrowing as he swept the room, searching for something or someone. "No one is leaving until it's sorted out," he declared, a chilling edge to his voice that sent chills down my spine. Despite my instinct to yield, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. "Jess!" I turned, calling for her, but in that instant the air shifted. A figure burst through the throng of panicked partygoers, and my heart dropped. It was Jessica, her eyes wide with shock, but this time she was not alone. Beside her stood a man I had never seen before, tall, with a disheveled look and a frantic energy. His clothes were wrinkled, as if he had rushed in without a moment's pause, and his gaze held a mixture of urgency and desperation. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean for this to happen," he shouted over the growing uproar, his voice cracking as he moved closer to Jessica. My chest tightened. Who was he? My gut churned. "What is going on?" I managed, my throat dry, struggling to keep the wave of anxiety from overtaking me. He glanced over his shoulder, as if he sensed an impending threat just beyond the crowd. "You need to get out now. They're coming for her." Jessica's expression shifted from confusion to alarm, and instinctively, I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers as I drew her closer, shielding her from whatever was brewing around us. "Who is coming for her?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, trying to anchor us in the moment. "Ethan's family," he spat bitterly, venom dripping from his words. "They don't take kindly to anyone who disrupts their plans. You have to understand, she is in danger." My heart sank, a new weight pressing down, suffocating hope and igniting fresh panic. I shot a glance at Ethan, who stood rigid, his previous arrogance evaporating, replaced by a palpable tension. It was as if the walls of reality were closing in. "What do you mean disrupt their plans?" I demanded, a surge of protective instinct swelling as the stranger's words settled heavy on my heart. Before he could respond, Ethan surged forward, closing the distance between us with frightening speed. The look in his eyes shifted as he turned to Jessica, his veneer of charm replaced by a simmering rage. "You don't know what you're tinkering with, do you? You should have stayed in your lane." "This is about more than just you, Ethan," the stranger interjected, taking a step forward, his stance defiant. "Stop playing games with people's lives." Jessica's face paled, but she stood resolute beside me. "What is your name?" she demanded, her voice trembling but firm. "Jared," he replied, glancing at her with an intensity that seemed to pierce through the chaotic storm. "But that doesn't matter right now. We need to move." The ground beneath us felt unstable, and I could hear faint sirens in the distance, a sinister reminder that whatever was brewing within those walls had escalated beyond mere verbal threats. I found myself rooting for Jessica to take a stand, to push through the fear that threatened to swallow her whole. "Jess," I whispered, squeezing her hand tighter. "We can't stay here. We have to trust him. We have to go." Suddenly, Ethan stepped back, a smirk creeping across his face amid the rising tension. "You really think you can just walk away? You think you're more powerful than my family? You have no idea what they're capable of." The haughty confidence sparking from his demeanor was infuriating, but Jessica met his gaze with challenging defiance. "You can't control me, Ethan. I want to be a pawn in your game." The house shuddered under the weight of unspoken threats as Jared pushed past us, urgency fueling his actions. "This isn't just about you anymore, Jessica. We need to go." I could feel the tremors of fear lace our collective breaths as an overwhelming sense of impending doom settled. "Let us go," I urged, but as we began to move, a scream sliced through the air from the direction of the staircase. Time seemed to freeze again, hearts pounding, as every gaze turned toward the sound. A woman stumbled down, pale and trembling, blood seeping from her brow, chaos painting the aftermath of a night once intended for celebration. "Help!" she gasped, her voice tomb-like, and in that moment, reality shattered, revealing the dark underbelly of a situation far more sinister than I could have ever expected. As screams echoed and footsteps pounded, I turned to Jessica, now trapped in the widening abyss of uncertainty, my protective instinct flaring anew. The truth began to unfurl like a dark shroud, cloaked in danger and deceit, each reveal pulling me further into a labyrinth of complications we were yet to comprehend. I glanced back at Ethan, whose expression had transformed into something feral, and twisted panic coiled tightly around my heart. We were left standing at the edge of a devastating precipice, each ominous moment demanding we decide what we would ultimately risk to uncover the truth that could tear our world apart. Would we make it out before the storm hit, or would this chaotic night claim more than we ever dared to entrust? The only certainty was that the revelations awaiting us were far more explosive than I could possibly fathom, each passing second setting the stage for the beginning of something that would rewrite our lives forever. The echoes of the woman's scream still reverberated in my ears, a haunting reminder of the chaos unraveling around us. My heart raced, fueled by adrenaline and confusion. In the thick of the turmoil, Jessica stood next to me, her eyes wide yet fierce, a reflection of determination as blood trickled from the stranger's brow. "Jared," she pleaded, her voice catching in her throat. "We need to help her." I could see the pain in her eyes, the compassion battling against the instinct to flee. But even as her compassion shone through, the reality of our situation crashed in like a tidal wave. Time was on our side. "No! We can't stay here!" Jared shouted, his voice urgent and unwavering, but even he was shaken by the sight of the woman. Panic was spreading like wildfire, and with it, the realization that each second was a precious commodity slipping through our fingers. The crowd was now a living entity, jostling and clamoring, desperate to escape the impending storm of dangers unknown. I felt a surge of bitterness rise within me, directed at this house that had been a sanctuary just hours before, now transformed into a crucible of fear. "Please," Jessica insisted, her voice softer, almost pleading, "she needs us." But before I could respond, another wail erupted, the sound of a child crying from somewhere above us. The turmoil surged again, a part of me unwilling to accept that life had descended into such horror, that a moment of joy had morphed into a nightmare filled with danger and suffering. "Jessica, listen to me," I said urgently, gripping her shoulders, meeting her steadfast gaze. "If we help her, we could be putting ourselves in the line of fire. We shall die if we don't." The loud thud of a door slamming echoed through the chaotic night, prompting a wave of fear. Jessica's conviction broke against the backdrop of horror that surrounded us, and I could see the fear of losing herself in complicity battling her innate desire to be good, to show kindness where there appeared to be none. "I can't just walk away," she whispered, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Before I could respond, the figure of Ethan loomed over us, his face a mask of calculated threats. "This is what happens when you defy me," he spat, the anger radiating from him like a dark cloud. I felt a rush of protective instinct. My heart soared as Jessica's steadfastness ignited something within me too. "Jessica, we take her with us," I said, my voice low but fierce, backing her resolve. "We can't let him win. We stand together, we fight together." "But how?" she breathed, glancing at Jared, who remained a fierce protector. "They'll never let us escape." "We have to try, for her and for ourselves," I told her, leading the way toward the woman, who was struggling to rise against the tide of hysteria. Just as we reached for her, a booming crash resonated through the house, shattering the remnants of safety we clung to. "We're running out of time," Jared urged as we skidded to a stop. The crowd surged in panic, and a shadow of ominous figures flickered at the edges of our vision, their intent cloaked in danger. It was just chaos. They were looking for something, or someone. In that moment, The woman's eyes locked onto mine, hollow with fear yet flickering with hope. "Please," she gasped. "They won't stop. What do you mean?" I asked, panic threading through my voice. But before she could respond, a crash echoed above, and then silence fell. It was unsettling, a pregnant pause that seemed to hold its breath, waiting for a storm to break. Suddenly, a sharp, commanding voice cut through the air like a knife. "Get away from her." It was Ethan, and he was no longer standing in the shadows. He emerged into the light with purpose, surrounded by his family members, all of them a tapestry of anger and entitlement. Fear rippled through the crowd as his presence struck like a match to dry grass. "You're making a mistake," he said, locking eyes with Jessica, his expression shifting into something dangerously sincere. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Neither do you," Jessica shot back, her spirit ignited, wrapping around me like a shield. I felt bolstered by her courage, each word she spoke fueled by an unwavering strength. Ethan stepped closer, his demeanor cold yet laced with something darker. He was playing a game much larger than we understood, and I could feel it coiling around us like a serpent ready to strike. "You really think I'll let you walk out of here with her? With any of them?" "Let us go," Jared inserted bravely, stepping between us, his eyes hard as steel. "The blood of innocence isn't worth your rich family's pride." That seemed to hit a nerve. Ethan's facade cracked for a moment, and in that fleeting instant, I saw something vulnerable flicker across his face, a depth of turmoil buried beneath arrogance. Was there part of him that wanted to escape this path he insisted on treading? But just as the air thickened with tension, a sharp gasp broke through. A crowd gathered at the entrance, catching everyone off guard as more figures tumbled into the chaos, screaming, frantic shadows escaping from the collapsing darkness beyond. "Someone help us!" A woman's voice blared, desperation reverberating through the air. Chaos erupted anew, the frenzied crowd now swirling around us with limbs thrashing and fears ignited. I turned to Jessica, desperate to protect her against the fray, but our escape felt farther than ever. The woman we intended to save slipped from my grasp, swept away with the tide of panic, leaving me grasping at emptiness. Panic churned within me, the pseudo-hope fracturing as reality sank and the crowd surged forward again, and just like that, we were separated, my heart slamming in sync with the rush of chaos. "Jess!" I shouted, my voice swallowed by the din of despair. As the figures around shifted like shadows, I stumbled back, desperate to find her, but the world spun into disarray, and my vision blurred. A serrated fear clenched around my chest, and in that darkness seeping from the crowd emerged a faint whisper. "Meet me at the north exit." It was Jessica's voice, familiar yet distorted by the uproar. I would have followed it anywhere, even into the maw of what lay ahead. But as I pushed through the bodies surrounding me, the gaze of Ethan lingered on me, heavy with unspoken threats and danger that echoed in my bones like a foreboding prophecy. Would I be able to find Jessica again? Would I be confronted with the truth Ethan had kept buried so deeply? With each step I took toward the north exit, I felt the fragile strings of our fate pulling taut, threatening to unravel and expose the stark reality of a night that would change everything. The world around me was poised on a razor's edge, the lines drawn into a treacherous battle where the only certainty lay in the shadows that woke perilous tales of heartache and betrayal. A wave of darkness unfurled, and I realized that the real storm was just beginning. The cold grip of the night air pulled at my skin, and the chaos seemed to pulse like a living heartbeat around me. I darted from one panic phase to another, each a reminder of my disarray, my ultimate mission clear yet dangerously close to slipping from my grasp. Jessica's voice echoed in my mind, guiding me through the storm, but panic clawed at my throat as I felt the distance between us widen. "Jess!" My voice cracked, barely a whisper against the howling madness. Fragments of memories, her laughter, her kindness, the warmth of her presence flashed through my mind, urging me on even as the tide of bodies pushed me away. The cries and shouts melded into a cacophony of despair, drowning out the spark of hope I clung to desperately. Then, a familiar shape surged past me. It was Jared, and relief washed over me as he clutched a hand to his face, blood seeping from a fresh gash on his brow. "Have you seen her?" I gasped, heart thudding against my ribs, like a caged animal. He shook his head, eyes wild. "I lost her in the crush. We have to keep moving before they find us." A chilling thought gripped me. Whoever they were, they wouldn't stop until they had what they wanted. That belief hung like a shadow over us, urging our feet faster as we plunged deeper into the fray, our goal as slippery as the darkness enveloping us. But then, from somewhere amidst the tumult, I caught a glimmer of movement, shining hair, a steady frame, and yes, her eyes. Jessica, looking fiercely determined. She was only a heartbeat away, her focus unwavering. My pulse quickened at the sight, pushing me onward. "Jessica!" I shouted once more, this time breaking through the veil of chaos that danced between us. I reached out, maneuvering through bodies until I felt the warmth of her hand wrap around mine. The fierce grip held as if it were an anchor in this maelstrom, a life raft amidst the tsunami of fear that threatened to swallow us whole. "Jared!" she yelled, her voice slicing through the noise, and his eyes lit up, relief flooding his features as he quickly joined us. As we formed a tight-knit circle, it felt as though we had conjured a small sanctuary amidst the chaos. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that it might only be temporary, a flickering candle in a gusty wind. "Where do we go?" Jessica asked, breath ragged but her voice steady, holding a promise of hope despite the uncertainty shrouding us. "The north exit," I urged, a heavy certainty weighing the words down as I led us toward the shrouded path that promised escape. "The commotion is thickest here. We need to use it to our advantage if we're going to make it out." Before we could move, another wave of screams erupted from the crowd, and a figure surged toward us. Ethan. His face twisted in anger, marred by the panic and turmoil. But there was something more in his eyes, an undercurrent of desperation that sent chills down my spine. "Stop!" he commanded, his voice slicing through the chaos, demanding our attention. "You don't know what you're doing." The confidence in his presence faltered, betraying something deeper, something that felt almost fragile. It was as if he was built upon a delicate structure, one wrong move away from crumbling entirely. I couldn't shake the feeling that this facade hid more than just arrogance. It concealed fears, insecurities, and perhaps even regrets. "Get out of our way!" Jared spat, planting himself protectively in front of Jessica and me. "You'll have to fight for this if you really want us to stop." For a split second, I marveled at the gall of my friend, the crescendos of his bravery echoing even amidst the overwhelming presence of danger. With a sudden movement, Ethan's expression transformed, a strange glimmer igniting behind his eyes. "You think you're fighting for something noble, don't you?" He stepped closer, the air thickening between us. "But the truth is, you have no idea how tangled this web truly is." The fractures of chaos hummed around us, yet in that moment, Ethan captivated everyone with a solemnity that hung heavily in the air. "You saved one life, and what about the rest?" he continued, his voice a conflicting mix of anger and pleading. "You might think you're heroes, but you're just chasing shadows." My heart raced, the weight of his words hitting me like a tidal wave. Suddenly, the chaos that surrounded us felt like an intricate puzzle, far more convoluted than I had ever understood. "We can't think like that," Jessica whispered at my side, her grip tightening as if trying to keep my heart anchored. "We have to save who we can." But before we could argue, the shadow of the crowd shifted once more, figures emerging from the dim light as they arrived, moving in controlled unison, a tight-knit coalition of power and anger. A line they had drawn separating us from our escape. "Let her go," one of them growled, eyes locked on the woman we had tried to save, who apparently now lingered just beyond the boundary of safety. You don't understand the truth about her. Or about this family. I stiffened. My instinct screamed at me. They were lying. The bitterness of their entitlement radiated in waves. They were clinging to something dark and desperate, and I had to expose it. But with every breath I took, the stakes rose, navigating a treacherous path cloaked in danger. How much more could we endure? How many lies were sewn into the fabric of our reality? As we stood against the reckoning looming behind us, there was one fact piercing through my fears. The battle was far from over, and that cloud of uncertainty loomed thick as the figures inched closer, fingers curling in anticipation of what came next. Would we break? Would we forge forward into the jaws of the unknown? As I clutched Jessica's hand, adrenaline coursing through my veins, I sensed a revelation inching toward us, a truth heavy and suffocating, an awakening that begged to surface. But above all else, the most personal battle lingered ominously on the horizon. The moment we would have to confront not only Ethan, but also the shadows of our own decisions. The reckoning had arrived, and the real storm was yet to unleash its fury. The world around us shifted in murky shades, the chaos interwoven with the dire urgency nestled between breaths. As the figures advanced, ominous and unyielding, I felt a tight knot clenching within, a mixture of dread and defiance igniting a fire within me. The truth was just below the surface, calling out to be unraveled even as layers of lies threatened to smother us. Above the din, Jessica's voice broke through, resonating with both a plea and a challenge. We can't give up. We might be outnumbered, but together we can find a way. Her resolve fueled something within me, and I glanced to Jared, whose clenched fists illustrated his commitment. But it was Ethan's stormy eyes that kept dragging my focus back, a maelstrom of emotion swirling, pulling me into an emotional undercurrent I didn't expect to see. What do you know about this family? I demanded, hoping to cut through his facade. What do you really want? Don't you see? You're too close to the fire to even feel the heat, Ethan shot back, his voice thick with intensity. They think they're offering her freedom, but it's a facade, a dangling carrot to keep you compliant and away from the truth that binds us all. What truth? I pressed, desperation lacing my tone as I felt the ground beneath me quiver with uncertainty. Jessica, he said with a sudden vulnerability as he turned toward her, they've been keeping secrets that could change everything, secrets about what she means to their world. You don't realize how precarious your fight is. Jessica stirred, confusion swirling in her eyes. Stop playing games, Ethan. You're manipulating us. Or was he? A flood of doubt grappled with my instincts. Was it possible that we were chasing shadows, as he claimed? The unpredictability of the moment rattled me, and yet I couldn't forget how desperate I was to shield her from whatever dangers lurked in their twisted reality. They moved closer, looming shadows painted in a geometry of power, imposing and unwavering. My heart pounded like a drum beneath my ribcage. Defiance surged, a spark igniting within me. I couldn't let fear dictate this moment, not again. Jessica, Jared, stay behind me. I barked, trying to shield them from the impending confrontation. Ethan's gaze flickered, almost pleading, a crack in his cold armor. You don't need to make enemies of your allies. The stakes are far higher than each of you realize. Think carefully about your next move. Why? So we can dance around your half-truths and listen to empty warnings? Jared shot back, unfurling anger that tempered into an unexpected vulnerability. We are trying to protect our own. We owe it to those who've been lost in this mess to find the truth, even if it means facing whatever is coming. Something flickered in Ethan's expression. Was it regret, fear, or alarm? It was hard to place, and yet as the figures pressed in, an echo of panic rattled within me. I would not let them take anyone else from us. With no time left for hesitation, I lunged forward, cutting through the space that separated us from the purveyors of discord. "Stand back. We know what we need to do. You will not take her. Move." One of the figures snarled, and just like that, the air snapped taut between us, a tightrope of tension. Jessica's hand tightened in mine, and Jared shifted defensively at my side. As our collective stance threatened defiance, Ethan murmured, "They won't stop until blood is shed. We have to find another way out of this." "Then help us," I cried, the urgency of my plea erupting with fervor, realizing that even in our desperation, there remained a small flicker of unity and unlikely alliance forged by fear and fate. If there's a way, we need it now. In the looming shadows, something caught the edge of my vision, a flicker of movement. A small child clinging to a mother's leg, eyes wide with terror, witnessing the chaos of their world unravel. My breath caught. They were all victims here, caught in a violent play far beyond their understanding. "We should be helping them," I declared, my voice rising above the noise, invoking all the raw emotion that surged within me. "Let us not lose sight of that." Hope sparked unexpectedly and simmered through me like fire igniting kindling, a realization that ignited collective action. We can't let fear drive us to violence when compassion is what we need. We will find the truth for them. Jared nodded, and in that moment, we became a chain and unyielding bond that stood against the enveloping darkness. But just as momentum shifted, right at the precipice of our resolve, the figure surged forward with a relentless force. "Stop them! They're trying to escape!" One shouted, urgency threading through their tone, as the rift between us widened once more. Ethan's expression shifted from urgency to resignation. "Maybe there is no escape, after all. Maybe you're too far gone to save anyone." "Don't say that," Jessica cried, the raw anguish in her voice a desperate plea for sanity in a spiraling descent. Weakened still words died on her lips as we found ourselves trapped in a maelstrom. The shadows encroached, and the bitter edges tightened around us, our last attempt to break free slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. Just then, a thunderous roar erupted, reverberating through the air, pulsing with ferocity. The walls shook as beams of light illuminated our surroundings, blinding and all-consuming. The sudden illumination caught us all by surprise, shifting perceptions and freezing moments as if time itself hesitated in the face of revelation. Rumblings of disbelief echoed in the crowd, stark power radiating from the illuminated visage that emerged. It was a figure cloaked in authority, commanding and unwavering. "What is happening here?" The voice cut through the panic, clear as a bell. All eyes turned toward the radiant figure, and in that singular moment, I realized that our fate hinged upon this unexpected arrival, a revelation that threatened to change everything we thought we knew. Because perhaps the woman at the center of our turmoil was more than a pawn in someone else's game. Perhaps she contained the true secret that swayed fates, a long-lost member of a lineage entwined with power and purpose. My heart raced with the implications of it all. What lay ahead could fracture us even more, unearthing awakenings I hadn't dared to fathom. And as the shadows began to curl and twist once more, I stood on the brink of understanding, one flame ignited in a labyrinth of uncertainty, where nothing could be taken for granted anymore. But the most chilling thought clawed at my mind, growing louder, bolder. What if we were only scratching the surface of a deeper deception? What if every choice we made only unraveled a web far more complex than we ever imagined? I stood frozen, caught between the chaos and the piercing light that enveloped us. The figure emerging felt oddly familiar, bringing forth a wave of recognition mixed with disbelief. The shadows swirled less menacingly in their presence, revealing a dusting of courage I hadn't thought possible. The authoritative voice cut sharply through the tension. "What has transpired here?" The stunned quiet felt fragile, and it was Jessica who took a shaky step forward, her eyes darting from Ethan to the newcomer. "We were trying to help," she stammered, newfound resolve rising in her voice like a prayer. but with every second that passed, I felt a gnawing sense of dread. This moment could fracture our world even further, or provide the very answers we sought. Help or hinder. Young lady, do you grasp the gravity of the nets being woven around you? The intensity in the stranger's voice sent chills racing down my spine, drawing us into the fray of real danger. Jared stood protectively in front of Jessica and me, his posture a shield against any further assault, but I could feel uncertainty radiating from him, mixing with my own tumult. "We have to leave," I began, but was interrupted by Ethan's sudden outburst. "You don't know what you're dealing with." He pointed at Jessica. "May hold the key to unraveling everything, but it will come at a cost. You're hardly in the position to issue threats." Ethan, the newcomer, interjected disdainfully, and for a moment, the mask dropped, revealing a complex mixture of protectiveness and profound disappointment. "This must stop. You all deserve the truth, but first, you must choose where your loyalty lies." The collective tension heightened, reality shifting like a tide pulling us in different directions. Part of me longed for clarity, while another cried out to shield Jessica from whatever storm lay ahead. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers tightly, as if trying to anchor her against the chaos around us. "Please, tell us what you know," Jessica urged, the tremor in her voice laced with earnest intensity. "We'll stand by you, but we have to understand." Just then, the figure moved closer, their presence absorbing the panic around me, shifting the focus away from the anger sparking in Ethan's eyes. "Your journey has drawn its lines in unimaginable ways. Jessica, your past is tangled with their own secrets. That connection cannot be severed without care or consequence." Silence enveloped us, and I could feel the air grow heavier, saturated with secrets yet uncovered. "What do you mean?" I asked, even as the small voice in my heart whispered the answer, a truth steeped in blood and lineage that I was not yet prepared to face. "There are legacies of power at play here, histories that wind like vines through your paths." The figure, cloaked in shimmering garments, surveyed the group before resting their gaze upon Jessica, a look of recognition and deep understanding swirling within. "You are more than you know, and being drawn into their world may breach ties that run deeper than you realize." The implications twisted like barbed wire around my heart, and the sense of foreboding settled heavily amidst the shifting ground. "What ties?" Jared's voice had lost its bravado, a shiver threading through his tone. "This family has garnered influence by unearthing truths. Jessica, your past holds echoes that have intertwined with the Hayes legacy in ways you're blind to. It's a path leading back to the very core of their power." Jessica's breathing quickened as confusion contorted her features, wrestling with the weight of this unexpected revelation. I squeezed her hand harder, willing my strength to ground us both. "They've used lies to keep you trapped, Jessica," I said, desperation edging my voice. "What you need to know is you have options. You don't have to walk this path alone." "No," Ethan interjected, his voice trembling on the brink of fury. "You only think you understand, Anna. You got this wrong. It's too late for the night to engage in the games we play." "I may not know everything," I shot back, unwavering, "but I refuse to accept that we're all simply players in someone else's game. We owe it to ourselves to find our truths." The tension in the air thickened, the shadows around us felt alive, angry, yet I could see the fluorescent spark glimmer in Jessica's eyes. Resolve had awakened within her. "I want to be afraid of what is unearthing," she whispered, her voice a mantra of defiance. "I will find my own truth, no one else's." And as she stood taller, I felt a force shift in the air, the bond we shared coiling like a serpent ready to strike, fueled by our intentions to protect one another no matter the cost. "How do we do this?" Jessica asked the figure, who seemed to radiate an aura of ancient wisdom and tempered strength. The figure smiled, a warmth igniting a spark of hope within the cavernous shadows. "Together, you must confront the truth that lies at the heart of everything. Resolve your fates and arm yourselves with knowledge. It is the only weapon you can wield in this looming war. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose, tension rippling through him, as he wrestled with emotions he seemed desperate to suppress. You think this is a game? We're spiraling to depths that charming facades can't protect us from. I'm not leaving anyone behind, Jessica shouted. Not after what this night has already claimed. The looming shadows hesitated as recognition dawned upon them, and I could feel the collective breath of those gathered approach a reckoning. The nefarious threads binding us began unraveling, exposing raw fears and desires that had lingered too long in silence. And in that fragile moment, as coherence emerged from calamity, I reached toward the figure, driven by a need to understand. What must we do? Embrace your fate. The burden of choice ignites transformation. Together, you hold the power to rewrite your stories. Choose wisely. As the echoes of the night faded into a precarious silence, the truth shimmered before us like a beacon, illuminating the path ahead, and in that instant, I felt the weight lift as hope cascaded through me, a sense of belonging, of unity filling the gaping chasm of fear once suffocating my heart. Now it was our time to begin the battle of our lives, the true revelation of what had long been obscured. As the moment of reckoning approached, I grasped Jessica's hand with fierce determination, channeling every fragmented whisper of hope into that connection. And as I faced Ethan again, it dawned on me that our destinies were entwined more fiercely than before, drawing us into a tide of fate we could no longer escape, where love danced alongside loyalty, heartbreak intertwined with triumph. And the shadows finally knew their days of control were dwindling. In this game, I said softly, letting my voice cut through the silence, we will be the authors of our own destinies. As we stepped toward the light, hearts resolute, I grasped the full depth of our journey, born from suffering and resilience. Together, we'd rewrite our endings. Together, we would defy the odds, and in that, I felt true power unfold like wings ready to soar, no longer afraid to face the storm ahead. Because now, finally, we began to understand that in this intertwining web of truth, love, and sacrifice, we were the catalysts that could alter everything, the architects of a fate that must remain in our own hands. And as the night stretched before us, beckoning the uncertainties of tomorrow, our bonds tethered together, becoming the lighthouse in the darkest nights. And from that moment forth, we knew we were no longer victims. We were survivors, ready to embrace the truth of our stories. And in the cradle of that conviction, I whispered a promise into the winds: we will rise.